mother of 5, missing for a week now. Sources tell our Connecticut affiliate that police are now investigating the disappearance as a homicide.
11:30 in the morning, and the driveway is wrong. Lauren Almeida has made this drive more times than she can count. Arrive, let herself in, keep the house running before the school day ends. Today, the house is quiet in a way that doesn't feel like an empty house. The Range Rover sits in the garage exactly where it was left the night before. But the Suburban, the car Jennifer said she'd take into the city, is gone. And Jennifer does not miss things. Not appointments, not calls, not children. Today she has 2 appointments in New York, 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and she has never once missed either. Almeida waits. She tells herself there's an explanation: traffic, a forgotten errand, a phone left on silent somewhere. The rooms around her stay exactly as they were, and somehow that is worse than if something had been disturbed. The hours keep passing the way hours do when someone is choosing not to think the thought sitting right in front of them. Almeida does not call the police. She waits through an entire afternoon inside a house that is telling her, in its silence, exactly what she doesn't want to hear. It is 7 o'clock before she finally makes the call. 7 hours since she first noticed the wrong car was missing. 7 hours in which whatever happened here had all the time in the world to finish happening. When investigators walk into that garage, the silence stops being ambiguous. There is blood on the concrete floor, blood on the wall, blood smeared low along the door and along the outside of the Range Rover that never left the driveway that morning. Inside the house, more waits in the kitchen. When the lab results come back, they show it belongs to 2 people, not one: Jennifer's blood, and blood from the man she has spent the last 2 years in family court trying to keep away from her children, her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos. Over the next 5 years, investigators would reconstruct what happened in that garage between 8:05 and 11:30 that morning. What they eventually assemble is not the story of a moment gone wrong. It is a portrait of a man who had already decided, long before this particular Friday, exactly what he intended to do. Jennifer Farber Dulos was born in New York City on September the 27th, 1968, daughter of a banker, Hilliard Farber, and a philanthropist, Gloria Farber, sister to Melissa Irene Farber. She graduated Brown University in 1990, earned a master's in writing from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, and spent her adult life doing exactly what she had trained for: writing and raising children. Fotis Dulos was born a year earlier in Turkey, raised in Athens, and arrived in the United States in 1986. He added an MBA from Columbia. In September 2004, weeks after his first marriage ended, he married Jennifer. Over the following years, they had 5 children, 2 sets of twins and a daughter. For 13 years, it held. Then, in 2017, it didn't. Jennifer filed for divorce that June. In her filings, she described a husband she no longer recognized: irrational, controlling, someone capable of frightening her inside her own home. She wrote about one night that March, when Fotis flew into a rage over weekend custody plans, chased her upstairs, and kept shouting through a locked door, even after she had barricaded herself inside a room. She said she believed the divorce itself would provoke him, that he had threatened to take the children if she did not accept his terms on his timeline. She named the woman she believed he was seeing, a colleague, Michelle Troconis. Fotis denied every part of it. The gun, he said, was for home security. Jennifer, he said, was the one poisoning the children against him. All he wanted, he said, was his family back. For a while, the court did not fully believe either of them. But by 2018, after Fotis had repeatedly violated the custody arrangement, a judge stripped his visitation down to supervised hours and monitored phone calls, and gave Jennifer full physical custody. She and the children moved into a rented house in New Canaan. It was supposed to be the start of something safer. It was instead a countdown that only Fotis could hear ticking. Investigators would eventually determine what that countdown looked like from the inside. On the morning of May 24, 2019, Fotis drove a Toyota Tacoma belonging to one of his employees, taken without permission, toward New Canaan. A school bus camera catches the truck accelerating past, headed for Waveny Park at 7:05 a.m. A bicycle tire recovered later from the truck bed tells the rest of it. Fotis pedaled roughly 3 miles from the park to Jennifer's house and waited. When she pulled into the garage after dropping the 5 children at school, he was already there. What happened next left no witnesses, only evidence, and the quiet, methodical discipline of a man who believed he had erased every trace of it. A neighbor's camera caught the Suburban pulling out of Jennifer's driveway before noon. Investigators believe Fotis was behind the wheel, the vehicle carrying what remained of a scene he had spent the morning trying to erase. He drove it to Waveny Park, moved everything into the waiting Tacoma, and left the Suburban behind. That evening, at 7:30, cameras across Hartford recorded Fotis and Michelle Troconis stopping at roughly 30 separate trash bins along Albany Avenue, feeding garbage bags into each one, working their way down the street like people who knew exactly how little time they had left. When police recovered those bags, they found cleaning supplies, bloodied clothing, gloves. The blood matched Jennifer. Fotis's DNA was inside one glove and on one of the bins. One bag carried the DNA of all 3 people connected to that house. 5 days later, Fotis drove the same Tacoma to a car wash, Michelle Troconis trailing behind him in her own SUV. Investigators would later find Jennifer's DNA on the passenger seat of that SUV. On June 1, 2019, Fotis and Troconis were arrested for the first time, but something else had already been sitting in the woods for weeks, waiting to be understood. 6 days before Jennifer vanished, 2 hunters at a gun club in East Granby came across a strange patch of disturbed earth, a hole roughly 6 feet long, covered with grill grates and branches. Inside it, a folded blue tarp, 2 unopened bags of lime. With no one missing yet, they shrugged it off and moved on. By August, when investigators finally searched the site with cadaver dogs, the tarp and the lime were already gone. No remains. But the property belonged to a hunting club founded years earlier by Fotis's close friend and attorney, Kent Mawhinney, the same man later accused of helping fabricate Fotis's alibi for the morning Jennifer disappeared. Phone records showed Fotis called him that evening, while the trash bags were still being fed into Hartford's bins. By January 2020, both Fotis and Troconis faced murder-related charges. Fotis's bond was set at $6 million. He posted it, walked free the next day, and was given a court date he had no intention of keeping. On January 28th, he failed to appear for an emergency hearing. When police reached his home in Farmington, they found him unconscious inside his car. A hose run from a garden vacuum into the vehicle's interior, carbon monoxide filling the cabin around him. A suicide note sat nearby. He had written that he was not willing to spend even a single hour in jail for something he insisted he had not done. Paramedics found a faint pulse and fought to hold on to it. It was not enough. On January 30th, 2020, Fotis Dulos died. Weeks later, the murder charge against him was formally dropped. Not a verdict of innocence, just the quiet legal admission that a dead man cannot stand trial. His attorney would spend years afterward insisting Fotis had been framed. No court ever agreed. The search for Jennifer never stopped. Canine units and helicopters combed Waveny Park through 2019. Investigators searched a family property in New York City, a landfill in Hartford, a fishing pond the Dulos family used to visit together, and thousands of acres tied to Fotis's company. In August 2021, forensic search teams brought heavy excavation equipment to a property on Mountain Spring Road in Farmington. They found nothing. To this day, they have still found nothing. What did emerge from the wreckage was a law. In May 2021, Connecticut Senate passed a domestic violence bill named for Jennifer, and for another Connecticut woman, Jennifer Magnano, murdered by her husband in 2007. Governor Ned Lamont signed it that June. Jennifer's law expanded the legal definition of abuse to include coercive control, the exact kind of control Jennifer had tried and failed to convince a court was dangerous enough to save her life. In October 2023, a probate judge legally declared Jennifer Dulos dead. 5 months later, on March 1, 2024, a jury convicted Michelle Troconis on 6 counts, including conspiracy to commit murder. That May, she stood in a courtroom split down the middle, Jennifer's family on one side, her own on the other, and was sentenced to 20 years, suspended after 14 and a half. Jennifer's children, no longer small, spoke that day about the mother they lost and the woman who helped hide what happened to her. Troconis has maintained her innocence ever since. This past May, a judge denied her bid to have that conviction overturned. Within weeks, her lawyers had filed to appeal that denial too. She remains behind bars. Kent Mawhinney's case ended differently. Prosecutors admitted in open court that they could not prove the murder conspiracy charge against him beyond a reasonable doubt. Jennifer Dulos has now been gone for 7 years. Somewhere, that answer still exists, kept deliberately by whoever still holds it. Every year on her birthday, the people who loved her gather in New Canaan and say her name out loud, because no body was ever given back for them to bury, and a name may be the only thing left they can hold on to. What this case leaves behind is not only a law that bears her signature, or a conviction, or a man who chose a car, a garden hose, and a locked garage over a single hour in a jail cell. It is a question that outlived him. How long can a threat sit quietly inside an ordinary house, a kitchen, a garage, a driveway at the end of a quiet street, before anyone recognizes it for what it is? That question does not end with this case. It is waiting in the next one too. Stay close. There is another door we have not opened yet.